Okay, y'all, well, the canning adventures still continue. So I am outside now and I am picking off a whole bunch of cherry grape tomatoes. This was some variety that volunteered itself, and it has been an amazing producer and so delicious. So it's an indeterminate tomato because it's been producing tomatoes all summer for me. And the yellow pear, the same thing, an indeterminate variety that keeps producing throughout the summer, and it's amazing. They are both amazing. And again, I didn't plant even any of the yellow pear tomatoes this season, but they volunteered themselves on the other side in the main garden, and I have just been picking them and enjoying them. Oh, and they've also been growing where they were mainly growing over on my north side of the house, where I had the tomato forest going last summer. So of course they started growing there again. Why wouldn't they? But I did not plant any over here, I don't believe, at least not in the area that they're growing. So they just started volunteering themselves in my hexagon bed, and there you go. So I've been enjoying them. So anyway, I'm going out here and still picking a bunch of tomatoes off this plant, and I have to say, y'all, they are so tasty and sweet. They're like candy. Oh my God, they're so good. So I'm gonna get in here and continue throwing some in my bowl. There you go. Continue throwing a bunch in here. And there are so many. I started recording here after I started gathering up a bunch of them, but then I decided to come out and needed more. So the goal is to do 4 pint-sized jars. So I'll see how many I get. If I don't have enough, because it always seems like, oh my gosh, you have so much, but then do you have enough? So I will see how much I've got, and if I don't, well then I will do that little trick of putting like an empty jar of water in there with it so they don't tip over. I mean, I was even hoping for like 5 jars, but by the time the season goes, I mean, I'm gathering up tomatoes here almost like every other day. I would come out tomorrow and do more, but I have an errand to run in the morning. But when I get home, I'm gonna try and get out here and harvest more up. And then I've also got some plants out here that have some beautiful tomatoes that I didn't get to, and those need to come off and get cleaned up because they are attracting bugs like crazy, like the ones that got splits here. I have another tomato tree going right over here, if you can see it, and there's a bunch of them in there that rotted before I could plant them, and you walk past it and all the gnats start flying. Okay, so I was saying that I need to pick a bunch off of this tree too, but I want to keep this couple jars consistent with just the yellow pear and the cherry grape tomatoes, but I need to get to this plant. It has a bunch of wonderful tomatoes on it, but a bunch of them need to get cut off, and they're, like I said, they're attracting the gnats on there. So anyway, but they are gorgeous, so that's got to get cleaned up. Well, I think one of the things I'm also going to do is try to add a couple basil leaves to these jars when I do them. So I'm going to go out of the garden here and get some basil leaves on the way out, and then start cleaning and prepping. Right, Cash? Are you going to help Mama get the basil when she walks out? Are you on the hunt for squirrels? Cash, squirrel, squirrel, go get it, baby. I'm sorry, that's just too much fun not to include in this video. He's just adorable and he's so cute. Squirrels is the new crazy keyword. Okay, so I have various basil plants throughout the whole yard, but I'm going to pick some off of this plant right here and add them to my tomato jars. And I think I'm just going to add them in whole. Just throw some leaves in there for some seasoning. My husband and I love basil. I was dehydrating basil one night and I was picking it and getting it all ready and clean, and the aroma was just going through the whole kitchen, and he was like, wow, that smells so good. And I'm like, yep, that's the fresh basil from the garden. Nothing like it. So I'm going to continue to gather up some basil and add it to our tomato mixtures, and I'm going to go over and gather up a few more tomatoes off the other side of the garden and add those also. All right, I'm in the main garden right now, and I don't know if you can see the tomatoes in here, but this is another plant that's growing on this trellis and has a bunch of gorgeous tomatoes. So I may be gathering enough here for my 4 jars. I mean, that's the goal, because I'm trying to harvest as many as I can. We're gonna get our first killing frost probably by October 31st. So I want to gather up as many as I can out here and preserve them so that when we go to make like tomato sauce and pasta sauce. Ooh, I'm just gonna eat that one. It's all right. Woo! These are a little more tart, but delicious. Oh, and I've got a whole bunch hiding right in here. That's why I know, y'all. It's a little country, but it works. just a good old pie tin. But it does keep them away, because the first year I grew, I didn't really use any sort of real protection from the birds, and I would get, like, as soon as I got a good tomato coming in, the birds would get them. This year, nothing. I mean, the birds are staying away, and I've been able to enjoy the tomatoes. My husband and I enjoy them on salads just about every night. And I just come out here when I'm watering and gather them up and take as I water and eat and snack. It's just been fabulous. So, and they had like 2 kind of varieties, because one of them is kind of small, but this is like a little teeny like cherry tomato, and the other ones still look like those grape tomatoes. So I think they were a Sweetie 100 variety, because I did plant several of those plants, but they just came out in different shapes. So it's a little bit different, but they're all growing in that type of stem formation where there's like several on a stem, and the stem grows outwards, and then, you know, the stem will grow outwards and all the little tomatoes are coming off of each side. So, oh God, I got some. And that's what I do. I just, you know, get a little soft, and just eat it. See out the bugs are gonna get it. All right, gather these last few up, and I'll start cleaning. Okay, so I'm back in the house now. Cash is roaming around somewhere, taking a break from squirrel hunting. And I am gonna get all these veggies and basil washed up and start filling the jars. Okay, so this time, because it was easier to deal with pint jars for one thing, I have them laying in the hot water, so I shouldn't have a loss this time. And I'm gonna use these black prongs to get them out versus the jar bottle lifter. So I'm just gonna get these out of here so I can fill them. All right, now these are nice and hot now. Lay them on my dishcloth here, because again, like the last thing we want is to, oops, my rack fell. That's the last thing we want is to place them on the cold countertop after I went through all this to try not to break one. So we have them on a nice dishcloth. I'm gonna raise my rack back up. You know, the rack with me, the struggle is real. So let's raise the camera up here, and I got my bowl of tomatoes, my basil, and we're just gonna start filling these jars up. Like I said, kind of do a couple here. Let's see how I can fill them up. And I'm going to pack even some basil down in here with these to try to get it in there. And of course, this wasn't in the recipe, but this is where I'm going a little bit off roadmap here. And again, I'm following the Ball Blue Book Channel, Book of Preserving. Say that 3 times twice with me, y'all. The blue bald book, canning and preserving book. Okay, so now I've got my basil packed in there with it. Add another one in there. Continue to fill up with my tomatoes. I think that one's good. Oh yeah, more than enough now. Perfect. I really wanted to fill these jars. So, okay, I think that all's good right there, yeah? I want to just pack them up and then put the liquid. And again, I'm following the instructions for raw packing. So, and I'm doing them unpeeled. So it does call if you want to peel them or not, but I'm doing them unpeeled, and I saw other YouTubers also doing it this way to preserve some cherry tomatoes they were canning, and they didn't peel them at all. So we had more than enough. I'm so excited. So now, according to the recipe, I am going to add a tablespoon of, or excuse me, a teaspoon of lemon juice to each one. Get our pH balance in there, right? And you always want to use the bottled lemon juice. It's preferred. You can't use citric acid, but I've been using lemon juice. Keep the pH balance right. It has a natural like 0.5% acidity. And then we're going to be using a half teaspoon of salt to each one. And I've got the Mrs. Wage's pickling salt that doesn't have any iodine in it. So just straight up pickling salt, or you can just get one from the Dollar Tree. Whatever works for you, or Dollar General. As long as it doesn't have iodine in it, that's all that is required. You get a nice, good half a teaspoon here. If I said tablespoon, sorry about that. I meant half a teaspoon to each jar. Okay. And then I would add some garlic or something, but you know what? We'll season it when we go like that, and the recipe doesn't call to do that. So we'll deal with that when we deal with that. So now I'm gonna move all this out of the way and ladle in my hot water. So laid over here, our countertops are granite, so it's protected. And it just says to fill up to 1/2 inch of headspace. And I'll get my funnel and my debubbler and measurer. And then I'm just gonna pack them. I don't want to break them. Okay. Oops. That was just the little end of my little grasp there. Okay. And I knew I'd have extra hot water, but I didn't want to run out. But I just did, it called for like a quart or quart and a half of hot water, but I went ahead and just did like 4 pints, knowing that, you know, you're going to have extra because of the space in the jars. Okay. Just kind of eyeing it here. And I think after you've been doing it a while, you kind of recognize where that 1/2 inch of headspace is. But okay. A little more there. And now I think this one needs a little bit more here. Let me get my measurer. Oops, there we go. That's for the 1/2 inch headspace. Yeah, this one could stand to use a little bit more. Okay. That's good. I will also worry about overfilling them, because then maybe that's why I've had some breakage, even when I felt the jars were hot. But hopefully this will go better and we will not have any casualties. So now we'll grab our lids. One more here. I had everything cleaned already. Oops, we need one more. And now I'm gonna grab a little napkin with some vinegar on it and wipe the rim to make sure there are no food particles on there. Some vinegar. I'm gonna finish off what was in this bottle and wipe these down. These are a little bit much easier when you don't have all the pickling spice in there. So, okay. Goes off a little bit. Those on there. And then we'll get the rings on, sealed fingertip tight. Okay. They're good. Oops. What did it go? Just get another ring on. All right, and then we're gonna put these in the water. All right, so where'd my jar lifter go? Okay, I'm hunting for it, y'all. All right, here we go. All right, let's do this. And I feel like I said, the hardest part I have usually is keeping my wrap up. But see if I can keep it up this time. Okay. And my water is at a simmer. I don't have it at a boil. I'm not hearing any pops so far. And we have our last one. And oops, knocked that over. The jar is nice and hot. I could probably just put this in on my own here. There, much easier. Okay, and we're gonna lower this. And now it calls for bringing the flame back up so we get a rolling boil done, or rolling boil going. And then once that starts boiling, I will start the timer for 40 minutes for pint-sized jars, and I'll be back. Okay, y'all, I am back, and I am happy to report that I do not have a single broken jar. I'm so excited. Oh, and I also had one correction to the previous segment. I did add 1 tablespoon of lemon juice and a half of a teaspoon to each jar. I got mixed up, and anyway, so I apologize for that confusion, but it's always 1 tablespoon of lemon juice if you're using a pint jar, 2 tablespoons if you're doing a quart jar, and then half of a teaspoon of salt for a pint jar, and I think it's 1 teaspoon of salt for a pint jar. So anyway, just wanted to make that correction. And I'm gonna get these jars out of here. Lift my wrap up. See if I can smoothly get these out of here. And, oh, I moved my towel. I'm gonna lay these out on this so that these are all cooling. Those are the other pickles that I made. And happy to report no casualties. So again, for this recipe, I just want to note that I did leave the peels on. I did clean them when I was not on screen though. I did clean them, gave them a good rinse of water, gave them a rinse of vinegar, so that I could make sure no bacteria was on them. And again, they are organically grown in the garden. Same with the basil, everything's organically grown, no pesticides, no sprays. So I don't believe that anything will be wrong with them. You know, any bacteria buildup, but you know, you never know. But I did do a vinegar wash just to be safe. So, all right, y'all. I had no episodes of getting them out that time. Again, see how my rings are a little loose? I know I shouldn't tighten them, but I just wanted to just a little bit. Well, anyway, we'll leave it alone. We'll leave it alone because it says don't tighten them. So I will get back to you again tomorrow and do the turn test on this 4. And then I have another video that I'll complete and do the turn test for my pickles on that one. So take care, y'all, and have a good evening. All right, it is the next day, and I am here to do the turn test, and this is the final test to see if I got some good cans to put away, or good jars to put away. So I've labeled everything, and these are the tomato basil that we just did together. I'm gonna undo the rings. Behind me, I've got the pickles that I did a previous canning video on and turn test, and they all turned out awesome. So now we have the tomato with basil, and again, I didn't peel these. They're just cherry grape tomatoes from the garden with basil leaves in there. So, oh my God, I can't wait to try these. So let's just hope they turn out. And I got good seals. Okay. Ooh, all right, y'all, it passed the test. It passed the test. Oh, look at that deliciousness too. Got a few yellow pear tomatoes in there with the mixture. All right, you got a good seal. Woo! Because otherwise we'll have a big mess if this doesn't work. Gorgeous. Love the color. I'm loving the colors of these fresh canned veggies that I'm doing. Oh my God, they're so beautiful. Oh, if I could just have a shelf in the kitchen to display these, it would be so lovely. All right, the last one, the moment of truth, and they all turned out. I am so happy, and not a single broken jar. So very, very excited. And I shared in the previous video that, you know, I'm having issues with like thermal shock on some of them, and I keep getting a broken jar, at least 1 out of every 4 on a quart that I do. But of the pints, I did not have any issues, and that could be because I can't remember now. Did I have my rack all the way to the bottom, or did I raise it up a little bit? But I also think that my rack is very, very close to the bottom of the pot. I'm trying to display, but very close to the bottom of the pot, and I need a little cushion there. So I'm gonna use some old rings and use those in between the bottom of the pot and the canning rack and give it some space to hopefully avoid the bottles being right, or the jars, I should say, being right against the heat. I think that's happening, which it didn't dawn on me until I watched a couple other videos that I'm like, yeah, my rack's like right at the bottom of the pot. I need to have some cushion there. So I'm going to take care of that and share in another video that maybe we have better, I don't like to use the word luck, but you know, we have better success. So with that, but anyway, I enjoy you all sharing in my journey as I'm practicing canning and trying to get better at it and learning all the ins and outs and fails and successes. So anyway, thank you all for being here, and please share any kind and helpful comments and what you're canning and what you're doing in your kitchen to preserve your harvest this season. And I'm getting excited to kind of go back out and start growing some fall veggies. And I have this Malabar spinach that I got from the Callie Kim seed collection, and you all gotta look her up because she is awesome, and her seed collections are wonderful, and I get amazing germination rates out of them. But I'm really looking forward to going out and planting some more of that. I have some going, and I add it to smoothies every morning, and I just love it. It is an amazing spinach. It vines, and it's just beautiful even. So I got to get some better videos of that to share with you in the next upcoming videos. But anyway, in the meantime, y'all, keep growing.